Okay, so in this video, we're going to talk about loops. So a loop is exactly what it sounds like. It's a loop is a loop of action groups that keeps going over and over and over again until you tell it to break out of the loop. So Ludio can do one level of loops. So if you look in any game JSON, there's this top level field called game loop. Game loop is itself a loop. Okay, so game loop is the sequence of action groups, and Ludio will cycle through each of them and then go back to the first one, and it'll do that over and over and over again till you check the win condition, which is the way you break out of the main game loop. But within game loop, you can have one more level of looping. And the way you create a loop is you add these open and close square brackets, and then anything inside that will loop over and over and over again until you tell it to break out. So let's make sure you understand this. So game loop is the top level loop for the entire game. Game loop is a list of action groups, right? So this is an action group, this is another action group, and so on. But interspersed between those action groups, you can have straight up another loop. And let me just show you the start of this loop. All right, so this previous thing, this is the end of an action group, but then this next item in the game loop is itself a loop because we have an open square bracket here. And then everything inside this open square bracket all the way till the time that the square bracket closes. It will close pretty soon, hopefully. Right, so this is all till the end there. That's all one loop, and it will keep looping. And I've copy pasted that into the JSON parser. So inside the loop, you have action groups. So this is an action group, right? It's called play cards, and it has 9 actions. And here's another action group within that loop, end round, and it has 1 action. So why do you want loops? Why would you possibly want loops? Well, there's a few reasons. Maybe your game is the kind of game where everyone has to play 1 card, and then the round is over, and then you do something, right? If that's the situation, then maybe you just want to loop through every player once and have them do their action. And that's like a really convenient way to do that. You may also have to just do computations that are easier. They're just more easy to do when you loop through every single player or every single card in the deck or whatever it is. So loops are usually for computation reasons, and sometimes you can put action groups in there so that people can actually take actions in this very consistent, predictable way. So Avalon, for example, you loop through every player, right? So that they can propose a mission, stuff like that. So how do you break out of this loop? If you don't specify a way to break out of this loop, it will just keep playing this. It'll play all the actions in this group and then all the actions in this group. Then it'll go back to the first one, do it again, do it again. So there is a special variable with a hard-coded name, and it's called isActionLoop. And this variable is set to true when a loop starts. So the second you go inside this block of code, isActionLoop is implicitly set to true. And the second you set it to false, the game will break out of this loop at the end of the action group in which you set it to false. So here we have saved a value to cache, isActionLoop. It has this particular value. The value returns a Boolean, right? So the selector is logical and it has 2 params, arg1 and arg2. And who cares what this computation is, but if this returns false, then isActionLoop becomes false, which means you're no longer in the loop, which means at the end of the action group, you will break out of the loop. Cool. So that's really all you need to know. Do whatever you want to do inside the loop, and then determine the condition at which you break out of the loop. Is there anything else to show here? No, I don't think so. So that's how loops work.